You are now tuned into Inflowence Radio, on air with your hosts DJ Keho and Jude LaBeast.
Yo, what's up, Influence listeners? Keho here and Jude LaBeast.
Yo.
Hella stoked to bring you a video interview here at the beautiful Inviscus Project Studio in Orange County.
Up.
This is a big step forward for us in our quest to keep creating quality content for you guys. So if you're listening on SoundCloud per usual, but you want to watch this interview, then check the description for a link.
It's probably not going to be there, but I don't know.
I don't know where it's going to be, but it's most likely going to be down there somewhere.
Hopefully.
So now, our special guest for episode 7 is Mr. Shark FAICOL, a badass house DJ and producer that I met through my awesome friends over at Get Down OC. So shout out to them.
Shout out to Mikey Jaswell.
Mike G.
Mike G.
The three musketeers. The 3 M's. The 3 M's. So shout out for them for hosting some of the best house nights in Orange County. Also, shout out to Focus OC for allowing Get Down to throw a show there last month, which is where I recently just reconnected with FAICOL.
That's right.
So because of that, we reconnected and scheduled this. So shout out to them.
Shout out Josh, Jose.
Really glad to have your beautiful face on video too.
It is beautiful. What can I say?
Although there's a lot more than just your face that I wanted to talk to you about.
Great.
Obviously, I want to talk to you about music. So let's start with your roots as a musician. So I know, basic questions. How long have you been DJing? How did you get started? Who introduced you?
Yeah. Let's see. I started DJing. I remember going to one of my mom's hospital. My mom's a nurse, like all Filipino moms. So
I wasn't gonna say anything.
That.
Yeah,
we just had a guest actually, a producer who's Filipino, and he's a nurse.
Yeah, I know. You're a nurse too?
No, I'm not a nurse.
That's where you can find all of them at the hospital.
I'm a caretaker though.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
I remember going to one of her parties, and there was a student. He had these turntables, and I remember trying to go home, and I was like, man, what he's doing is. That's pretty cool.
Wait, how long ago was this?
This was I must have been in 5th grade or something.
Wow.
4th grade, yeah. And I was just like, I don't know what that is, but I really want to learn how to
So back in the day of turntables.
Back in the day of turntables.
No Serato, huh?
No Serato, no nothing.
Back in the day of shitty PA systems.
Yeah. And I remember my first turntable, it was like this Panasonic, and it was like it had a tape deck. It had 2 tape decks and the turntable on the top.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was belt drive and everything like that. And I tried to scratch, and I remember scratching the actual, using the needle and just
Did you already have that, or did you purposely buy it?
Well, this was something my parents had, and it was just they had all their old records and things like that from when they were growing up. But I actually really kind of got my start in junior high. I remember it was
a young age.
Yeah. My older cousin, he was into scratching, so that's really kind of where I cut my teeth watching.
Wait, you know how to scratch? Dude, I've never ever seen you even
we'll have to do a little bit of cutting on the thing. So I Qbert, D-Style, Shortcut, Beat Junkies,
Heroes.
A-Track, Executioners.
Hey.
All those guys, I remember just watching those videos nonstop and just being like, wow, that's really freaking cool. I want to learn how to do that. And
so you learned how to scratch before you learned how to mix?
Anything. Scratching
because you only had one turntable.
I only had one turntable. and the first turntable I actually bought I practiced on was a Gemini. I think it was like a PT100, and it was belt drive.
I think we have.
It was
actually.
We have 2 Geminis.
It was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous because you couldn't really scratch on it, and the record always skipped. And I remember the first time playing on 1200s, I must have been in
mind blowing.
Yeah, 7th grade, and I was like, I remember we had him on top of this at my friend Juice's house. We had him on top of the washer and dryer, and I was like, I don't care what it's on top of. This is amazing. And just from there,
That's awesome.
I think as a lot of your guests, I've been doing some research on your guys' podcast here. I cut my teeth in hip hop. Premier,
That's so cool.
Dilla, Pete Rock.
I didn't know any of this about you, by the way. For people who are listening, people who might think that we interview people and we already know everything about them, no. You're learning it at the same time that I am right now.
That's correct.
So
that's where I really kind of got my start. In addition to the music thing, right? I know this is a violin maestro right here sitting to the right of me.
You trying to say that because I'm Chinese? Or
not just that. Hey, I started on piano. We probably all did. Exactly. So, I started probably around the same time you did, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And then, I was the kid who hated practicing. Like I did not like to practice at all, but I did like rhythms.
Yeah.
They used to call me, my teacher called me Rhythm Boy. I remember they're like, Rhythm Boy, go up here and, subdivide this thing. Now, I was pretty good at that. And then I picked up alto saxophone in junior high.
Oh,
I'm still doing piano. Yeah, a lot of instruments. But I always wanted to play drums. Like that was my thing.
Rhythm
right?
Boy, right?
Yeah, I always wanted to play drums. And there was a time I remember I joined drumline and I marched snare drum in high school. And for some reason, my dad
Wait, drumline with Nick Cannon?
with Nick Cannon. That's my man.
I used to watch that too.
Yeah. I wanted to be like Nick Cannon. Actually, this was before Nick Cannon came
man.
out. So
he wanted to be like you.
Right.
Okay.
He wanted to copy
Got
me.
you.
But it's an interesting story, a big part of my history because for some reason, my dad never wanted drums in my house.
Too noisy.
Too noisy, just don't want to deal with the noise and the neighbors. And so I was like, I'm practicing a lot. I'm, marching in the drum line. We're doing all this, putting in the hours. And my mom was like, yo, you got to get a drum set. My dad was like, yeah, no. So my mom secretly bought me a drum set.
I don't know how you can keep that a secret.
Exactly.
Though.
Like it was secret for a night. We had bought it like when Guitar Center was closing or something like that.
Surprise!
I was so stoked. I was so stoked to play this thing. And I put it together, and the next day, my dad comes out and he just flips he leaves for like 2 days.
Wow.
We don't know where he goes, but eventually, he accepted it, and I started getting into jazz, and when I went to college at UC
So you're very
Berkeley-
well-rounded.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that. I really always wanted to play jazz because it was always a big mystery to me, and people are always like, "Oh, you could play jazz, you could play almost anything," which is maybe true in some aspects, and there's still a lot of things. It's a very sort of unique, syncopated language. It's about the conversation and the relationship which the instruments are having with each other. And I played jazz and studied throughout college while I was going to UC Berkeley, and I was helping kind of pay my school.
What did you go to school for?
I went to school. Well, what was I supposed to go to school for, or what did I end up going for?
Well, it never happens as intended. So.
Well, what's the other thing? If it's not nursing, it's med school. And so I took 1 semester of bio. Went in and I was like, yeah, I don't think this is me. I really love music too much, and I ended up getting a minor in music.
That's really cool.
A major in sociology, which kind of led me to sort of my work life.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that after we talk about this.
So a long-winded story. So I kind of, my life growing up was a lot of music, and it still is today.
When did you DJ your first party?
Oh man, DJ my first party, officially or unofficially? Because I remember.
Matter.
Okay.
To you at the
To
time,
me,
which
most memorable
event
first?
stressed you out? Shit, I gotta perform.
Yeah, I remember it was one of my first house gigs. I was maybe 18 years old.
Yeah.
And this was as I was a freshman at UC Berkeley. Didn't know anyone. I was a spring admit. So everyone
this was at college.
That's earlier than most freshmen then.
Yeah. No one had, well, actually, I started in the spring of what was, supposed to start in the fall.
Oh, okay,
Everyone had
okay.
made their friends already. I didn't have any friends, and so I was just I just went out by myself. I would just go out to places, and I eventually linked up, and they're with this promoter, and they're like, yeah, you can open. And it was this club in San Francisco. I remember.
Were you still doing hip hop then?
No, this is kind of where I started to kind of transfer into a little bit of more of some kind of the housey stuff, and I could tell you the story later if you want to know how that kind of happened. But that stressed me out because I was like, shit.
So to you, that was your real first
there's
real gig.
people here and they're looking at me,
depending on you to set the vibe.
right, and they were like, it was one of those clubs where there were dancers behind you, and I was like,
oh wow,
this is
that's
the
pretty
real
legit.
deal. Yeah, I was, kinda
Especially in
nervous.
SF too.
Especially in SF,
Yeah.
I remember. But it was this gnarly club right outside of the Tenderloin, I think it was.
Oh
And
wow.
I remember being like, this is what it's like.
It's legit.
Yeah.
So what? Okay, so along those lines, then you were just getting into it. How did your transition of your music style or your DJ style go from hip hop or whatever it was to what it is now? Or was it a constant, or is it still changing?
I mean, I think it's always changing. We turn on the radio.
Always
and,
learning.
Yeah, always learning. Always
Well,
sort of listening to.
When did you decide fuck all this scratching shit? I'm just gonna mix dope house beats. you know?
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I think there was one event that really changed it for me, and one of my best buddy since 3rd grade. He goes by the name of Modus now. He's a DJ. Shout out to Modus. He just played.
I don't know you, but shout out to you.
Cross Festival this past weekend. Yeah,
Cross Festival?
Yeah.
That's
he
dope.
played there?
He did.
Oh,
he did.
sweet.
That's my buddy. We grew up. He actually was the one who influenced me to play drums, and we grew up playing music together. He took me to I remember it was Tiesto Elements of Life
Oh, wow.
tour. And so it's like,
Old
yeah,
school.
and I was like, I don't know, man.
But that was like
this
your
is-
first 4 on the floor, like
This was, yeah, I mean, it was one of the first ones, and this was in San Francisco, Bill Graham, and I was going to Berkeley at the time, so we stayed there, and I was like, I don't know about this. Man. Like, I don't know about that.
It's too fast.
I was very. Here's the thing, I was very against like techno and trance and all this kind of stuff. So I kind of went into it with the.
You were
sort
from
of
the
mind frame.
streets.
And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this.
Yeah.
But there was a side room there, and in the side room was Miguel Miggs, Mark Farina, Derek Carter, DJ Heather.
So who's who?
The who's who, you
Yeah.
know, the really sort of Chicago and San Francisco deep house,
The
sort of
soulful,
yeah.
jazzy kind of
And
stuff.
Real
I-
deep house, though,
yeah,
not like the mainstream deep house.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. And I was listening to them play all the things they were playing, and the way that they were just playing and the way they were mixing it, and I was like, I know all of these songs.
Yeah.
And the way they were playing, it wasn't like a real cut and paste, like sort of bootleg style of track. The way they were playing, I was just like, man,
Lots of blending,
yeah.
layering.
I was like, this
Sweet.
is amazing.
Yeah.
I just remember it was like, now I want to do that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm gonna put all this stuff to the side. Like, I want to do that, and that was a really sort of a definitive moment
Cool.
for me because all the DJs, just that I listed, they all just came with it.
Right, right. So,
And I never knew music like that existed. I
Oh,
thought
really?
all like
hip hop was life.
well, not just that. I just thought that when you thought of like a lot of electronic music, it was like
Techno, like
yeah,
Sandstorm.
Tiesto and
Yeah.
Sandstorm and
Yeah.
Darude and all that stuff. I'm like, man, I don't know if I'll ever. You can't pay me to listen to that kind of stuff.
Then
but-
you found the groovy shit.
Then I find the groovy stuff,
Yeah.
and that sort of fit with sort of my background, studying jazz and
Yeah.
funk and with drums. And I was like, I think this is something that I want to do. And it wasn't I think, I was like, that was a big turning, sort of point for me.
Well said. I like the way you explain stuff, by the way.
I hope I'm not talking too much.
No,
I guess,
no,
I
that's
guess,
perfect.
I guess that's what I'm here to do, right?
That's what you're here to do. So, cheers, by the way, for bringing these beverages that we cannot disclose.
But if you know me, you know what it is.
Well, you'll know him by the end of this. So, thank you all also for coming down from LA. I know it was a tough drive for you, especially today on a weekday.
Oh, man, it's
And going back a little bit, speaking about how we met through the guys at Get Down OC, what brought you and them together?
That's a really good, it's an interesting story because as I was sort of discovering this whole style of music, this deep house, this sort of, I don't know, arguably Chicago style or San Francisco style, the groovy type of stuff, which, I've heard you play very well, which
Thank
I
you.
think is one of the reasons why we probably
Thank
get
you.
along. Probably
Appreciate
the reason
that.
why he brought me on here.
No, it's not about me. It's about you.
But I had heard about this place, and they're like, oh, they play really good house music there. And I was a friend with a lot of b-boys growing up, and suddenly there were
they
a lot of-
coexist together.
Yeah,
Housing
b-boys were
and-
listening to house music. They weren't just dancing to breaks.
Exactly.
Yeah, they
Or
were
just
dancing.
funk and soul. They started dancing to
grooving out.
house music. 120,
It's all related
125
musically.
BPM. Yeah. And so I went to this place, and it happened. It was called Proof Bar, in a place you guys know very
Downtown
well.
Santa Ana.
Yeah,
And
DTSA.
I hadn't really explored Orange County at the time, and then I was like, I walked in, and I had another moment, like, man, they're playing really fucking good music here.
Yeah.
And they're like, yo, go talk to this guy. I was like, go talk to this guy. I was like, okay. And I was like, hey, what's up, man? You on the night? He was like, yeah. I was like, man, this is really good music. What was the last song you just played? He was like, oh, it was like Sound Republic, this or that.
Yeah.
He was kind of like an interesting dude because although he'll argue this, like the guy's name happens to be Mikey Jaswell.
Yeah.
And he would kind of like just like giving me this like,
Who is
yo,
this
I
guy?
don't really want to talk
Sizing
to
you
And
up.
I was like, I love this. Like, this is amazing. But, eventually he was like, well, why don't you come play? And then that's really sort of the start of a relationship. I think music is one of those things.
Brings people together.
Brings people together, crosses all boundaries.
I mean, that's
and-
what brought
Music.
Yeah.
us together.
Yeah.
It was him. It was also Mikey. So thank you
Right.
that offered me to play at Get Down OC2, which in turn led to this.
Yes.
So music bringing people together, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, leading to that question, how was the house scene then compared to now? Or like, how do you feel about
Yeah.
the change and? Or,
If any.
Yeah, I mean, I think the landscape's changing tremendously. You know, I think people are going to continue to do what they do. You know, I think some of those subsets and subgenres, they still live there. With electronic, I mean, there's so many subgenres. It's just like
it gets confusing.
at the end of the day, for me, it's just like if it sounds good, it sounds good. I'm not gonna hate you because you like this type of music or you play that. Like sometimes I'll be surprised and I'll be like, man, I remember I listened to something Chester put out, and this was when sort of like the quote unquote the new style of deep house, and I was like, whoa, this is very different. I feel like maybe like techno is kind of on the rise now, and
I think so. I think techno's on the rise.
Yeah, the sort of warehouse sound.
Yeah.
But I think the landscape changes every couple of years, and I think that for me, what's important is, some people try and really kind of focus on like what's going to be the new big thing. Like,
the new thing hopping on trends, pleasing the crowds.
I think that's important to think of as well. But I think that you kind of just do what feels good and what's fun, because I think for probably a good portion of us, that's how we all kind of started, because it's just so much freaking fun.
Yeah, and for you, music and DJing is first and foremost a passion. It's not a job for you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of liberating, actually, the fact that you don't depend on it for a paycheck or anything.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between somebody like you who's DJing out of passion versus somebody who's like a working DJ.
Yeah.
And
it's a shout out to all the working DJs, man. Like that's
you guys rough it out. Like
that's a hell of a thing. You don't know where your next paycheck's gonna come from. You don't know. You can
dealing with the clients.
Dealing with the clients. And the girl who's showing you what song she wants to hear on her phone.
Can you play something we can dance to?
It's like It's hard, but I also think as being a DJ, that's really kind of our responsibility too. Is you're at the end of the day, you're there to. You're a producer. People. You're there to make people dance. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think not necessarily true DJs, but the ones who can sort of make it enjoyable are people who can sort of introduce people to new music that they maybe wouldn't have heard otherwise. What's the setup? You play 2 popular songs that they know and then one that they don't, or however you sort of set it up, whatever your formula is.
Yeah, that's one of, as DJs, I'm sure you guys can agree with me, but one of the moments where I get the most pride out of DJing is when I play something that's not necessarily mainstream, but someone comes up to you and says, "Yo, what was that? That was a dope track.
That was sick.
I really liked what you did there." And I'm like, "Wow, I did my job." Like I showed them something new and they liked it. They accepted it.
Those are the little wins that make you remind you're like,
yes. And speaking of comparisons between how it was then and now, do you have a lot of experience DJing up in LA?
Yeah.
Can you compare the 2 scenes down
OC
here? Yeah.
Well, I think
there's not much of a scene here. But
but that's the thing. I think
there was a scene with Get Down OC.
Yeah.
With Get Down OC, and I think really the scene are attributed to people like you guys who are really trying to sort of lead the way and create
expose
something for what it is here. I feel like we have a lot more venues here in OC maybe than we did before, and you have places like Focus that's been around for a while. LA just has a lot more to offer just by sheer volume.
Right.
I think eventually OC is going to catch it. Hopefully this place right here, IPS, is going to be, a good space for it. I don't know. That's my job, man.
Well, that's why you do what you do.
Exactly.
Everyone has to start somewhere. I heard of Steve Aoki, throwing cakes at people's face now. But what a lot of people don't know is like in the early 90s and mid 90s, this dude was hustling, throwing his weekly at the Greek restaurant that he was at, where nobody came.
Went to the same college as me, by the way, UC Santa Barbara. So shout out to the Gauchos. Ole.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Anyway, in the beginning or a few minutes back, you talked about balancing your work and your DJ life. So I think that your work life is actually really interesting, and I want to learn a lot more about it.
Yeah.
So what is it that you do? I know you're in the marketing or like organizing events, shows and whatnot. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that really sort of led out to I like to be around people, whether it's I always think that it's important for us to really surround ourselves with the people who are going to make us better at what we do. And I would go out by myself to go to clubs, try and get gigs or whatever.
Yeah.
And that sort of led into started working for an agency, and at the time their main client was Scion Cars.
When they still existed. R.I.P. to Scion.
Yes, just as of recently, R.I.P. to Scion. But as you know, like back in the day, they were doing some really revolutionary things.
Yeah.
Building partnerships, and they were booking, Miguel Miggs, and they were booking.
Really appreciate what they were doing as
Jazzy
a car
Jeff,
brand. Yeah.
really tying in lifestyle. They were doing art installation series, and at the time that was really set the benchmark for a lot of other brands.
Yeah.
They had never done anything like that before.
Exactly.
And I think that brand was supposed to only be a limited edition car line, but everyone sort of followed suit.
Yeah.
You see Kia, you see.
So you
Ford.
organize events for them? And
So
stuff?
I was working trade shows with them. I know you guys have did some work with Hot Import Nights, correct?
Yeah.
So I cut my teeth on car shows.
Oh, nice.
Hot Import Nights, Dub shows, Formula D, and we were just doing trade shows. I was working as just like a rep, speaking
Mm-hmm.
about cars, and that sort of led into an agency job where, I had the opportunity to be around some really great mentors, and I think a really important thing for us at the time was to be able to do marketing that has cultural significance. Right?
Yeah.
You have traditional, and you have sort of new, modern, experiential, and social ways of doing influential things and marketing that has
influential.
there you go. that really has value not only to the brand but also to the consumer and how it's experienced. Right. We always want to think about how do we sort of have deep, meaningful conversations with those who have the ear of our consumer, and how do we talk to them every day. And so we got to do some really cool programs. We were working with Dr. Pepper, and we created this program for MLG, Major League Gaming. If you guys are into gaming, we did a program. Yeah, and this was 7,
now.
8
It's
years
rising.
ago.
It's still
It's
going.
rising. This was 8-9 years ago when we started, and we built a program where these gamer kids are just like. They're interesting kids, right?
Yeah.
They don't get out a lot.
I was
They
one of
spend a
those.
lot
I played CS 1.6 back in the day, like till 4 fucking
You still
a.m.
are, so it's okay. you still are. No need. You just kind of grew out of it. So. And we were going to this program for Dr. Pepper, and it was a big client, and for us, we built gaming stations for them. They had an opportunity to sign and meet some of the pro players, which I realized they play for millions of dollars, which is
Well, now they do.
Yeah. But for them, it was great that we had a chance to really kind of take real money from a big brand and do something that was valuable to these kids who just like are the hardcores of the hardcore of this industry, and they loved it. We got to do fun programs with music festivals for liquor brands, building pop-up barbershops, and another great program I did it for a taco truck where we were doing marketing for this new tequila brand, and so. We wanted to do a mobile bar. This was 2010 when food trucks were.
So you were really on like the cutting edge of hosting these sorts of events where like corporate brands or corporations would really be trying to like connect with their consumers on like the street level. Like.
I mean, I want to say so much. I was on the cutting edge, but but I think that was really kind of. They've been doing that for a while.
Right.
That was nothing new, but. I had the opportunity to do some really cool programs, like with chefs cooking with tequila. And I had for 1 year, my job was to find chefs in 10 different cities in LA, New York, San Francisco, Houston, Dallas, Austin, Miami, and pitch them on this program. Hey, cook a menu, and you have to use tequila as your ingredient. And I flew out and did tastings for like.
Sounds like an awesome job, but I'm sure it's really stressful.
It was a lot. It sounds great, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of things sort of few and far in between that you have to take care of before.
Exactly. There's lots of logistics involved.
Yeah,
in event
yeah.
planning, as both me and Jude know, but I'm sure you can school us any day.
Well, no, I mean, I
on
know you
that.
guys.
How big you do.
You guys both do events.
We're
and
getting
it's-
there. We're getting there.
It's a really rewarding thing to do because you always try and maximize. It takes a certain type, number one, and it also is. It's nice to be able to interface and meet new people every day. I always try and make it a rule every time I go out.
To meet new people.
Meet at least 1 or 2 new people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good
And
goal.
actually connect with them, not just
yeah.
hey,
It's like,
I'm
hey, how's it
Mark, nice to meet
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and then that's
You
it.
never know who you're going to be seeing next.
Yeah.
Could be you. Could be you.
Yeah.
Could be anyone. So I think that's how you really have to. I kind of look at relationships like bank accounts, right? Like, either every time you meet someone or every time you go to the bank, you either make a withdrawal, you take money out, or you make a deposit. And the more you see people, the more you're depositing into your account. And your hope is that in life that you have money and financially stable. But I think the same analog can be sort of drawn for relationships, right? The more we sort of nurture a relationship, keep in touch, then we're adding to the bank account. Hopefully we all get rich.
Damn, wise words from the shark.
Try, man.
Do you think your music side of you, your DJ side of you, and your work life ever intertwine or work hand in hand?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I mean, it'd be different if I was a DJ and maybe like an accountant,
Right.
right? But I'm a DJ and I'm in events.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm in the beer business,
Yeah.
right? And my job is to sort of bring an Asian beer brand and bring it into the sort of mainstream audience through different sort of focus verticals,
American
which is
culture.
like food and music and art and fashion. And sort of as you do that, you just meet people every single day. And It crosses.
And because
a lot.
it's beer, going out is part of that.
Yeah, going out is part of that. You got to limit the amount of beer you drink nowadays, or I do at least. But it's very related, and you always try and again try and do things of value to people to help add another dimension to their event. I think it's great. Everyone always needs beer. You know? So I think it's a great thing to have. And
I fucking love beer.
Yeah,
I did too, but I had to cut down.
who doesn't?
Oh, Jude, I'm older than you, so don't worry about that. It's genetics. I'm sorry. I have good genes. I'm sorry. Funny question I have for you.
Okay.
Is I've seen you, from one DJ to another.
Yes.
You are possibly the person that I see get the most fucking down during your sets. Like, you're like lost in the music. You're just like, I don't even know like if you're thinking or if you're feeling or if you're like on autopilot. Like
Probably a combination of everything.
or whatever substances you're But like, do you ever actually forget like the technical, like, oh fuck, I missed my like mix-in point, or like, I forgot I'm supposed to like, EQ, or I forgot to pick my next song, because you're just so into vibing out and what you're doing, which you guys will see later on as we record him doing his 30-minute guest set. But,
I mean, I think it's you're gonna, when you're playing in front of people, right? You're gonna get as much out of it. You're gonna get what you put into it out of it.
Yeah.
So if you're there,
especially when you're in front of a crowd, a live crowd, they feed off of not only the music, but they watch you.
They watch you. They feel the energy, and that can be something that's really, you can't really replace that. And it's I think most people can really kind of call that out if it's kind of fake. I think first and foremost, the mixing should be there. The music speaks for itself.
Yeah,
always.
But it's a full package, right? Like if you have the best DJ in the world, technical savvy, they're doing all the licks, all the cuts, mixing is perfect, and they're but they're just boring.
No facial expressions, emotionless.
Yeah,
they don't interact.
That might be great if you're listening to a mixtape, because you don't see them. But if you're going out, I think there's a real sort of participatory element.
You're part of the party.
Yeah.
That's the way I see DJing, is that I'm one of them. I'm one of you guys. It just so happens that I get to choose what music. But, I'm not here to like show off or necessarily, be bossy and control everything. It's like I'm part of the party. I'm part of the greater like thing that's going on. Like if you guys feel it, I feel it. If I feel it, you guys feel it.
And it's a big responsibility too, because people are coming out and you're in control of everything. You sort of dictate where you want to bob, move, weave, deep peaks, valleys, curves. It's really about, you kind of want to tell your story, right? We talk about that in jazz a lot. You play a lot of jazz standards. And it's the same song, the head or the chorus is the same, but the solos are always different. You're hardly ever pressed to hear the same jazz song played the same, and hardly, if ever, never happens, right? So you want to think about, what story you want to tell when you're DJing.
Are you consciously thinking that at the moment while you're DJing? Or is that something you pre-think, so to speak, and then go into it with sort of a game plan?
I think, it varies case to case, gig to gig, as I'm sure, I'm playing Focus. Oh, I know they like this kind of music. They like this. Maybe I'll play this. But, you kind of dictate that. Sometimes you hit or miss. You're like, oh, this shit's going to fucking kill it. And then, like, it didn't really. It didn't. Or, like, I didn't really think they were going to like this song, but they really did.
But that's part of the quest. That's part of feeling out your crowd. Usually, for me personally, I'm kind of a slow starter. It takes me a while to really get into the groove, but I feel like after I do, then I know exactly like what's gonna vibe, with the crowd. I don't know about you guys. Luckily, some people are like
you gotta build them up sometimes.
Some people are just like, some people just know. They walk into the spot, they feel the aura in the air, and they're like, damn, okay, I know exactly what to do as a DJ. And I'm jealous of people who can do that, but I kind of have to like feel it out. I don't know about you.
I mean, I think that comes with practice for all of us. Sometimes you come in, depending on what time of the evening you're playing as well too. Whatever all those unwritten rules are, like don't play all the bangers before 12 o'clock, or don't, do this.
Sometimes you have to break the rules.
Sometimes you got to break the rules, and that's totally fine. Rules can be
every
bent.
night is different.
Every night is different. But I guess to answer your question is, I kind of think about it. If it's a place I've never been to, go a little early and see what the DJ before you is playing, and kind of like, where do I pick up from there? Yeah. So
back to the original question: have you ever like royally fucked up a mix because you were too busy dancing or too busy feeling the vibe?
Yes. Absolutely.
Like, oh shit, the
That's
song
happened.
ended.
Yeah. And this is back in the days before you had like auto loop or
Or
4-bar
press
loop. Or,
press stop on the wrong deck.
oh yeah, that's definitely happened. And what you do is just like, oh, you
You're
almost
like,
rehearse.
oh, what? Something fucked up. You spilled a drink.
Yeah.
You spilled a drink.
You gotta just, the show must go on,
does.
the show must go on. I've definitely done that, and it's gonna happen, and I think that
That's part of the fun.
That's part of the fun, and I think really good part of that is really just sort of be resilient, because after that can just like deflate you. You're just like, oh man, everyone looks at you like, what are you thinking, man? Like, how could you do that? But it's
It
I've
happens.
seen it happen. I've seen it happen on big stages
Right.
before, and it's
It
just like,
happens.
see,
Something goes
you
wrong.
still do that.
Yeah.
It's for at least the DJs who are still either playing vinyl or mixing on
Exactly.
CDJs or things
Everything's
like
not pre-mixed.
that. Everything's not always pre-mixed.
But it's still a live performance.
Yeah.
I can attest to the way that he plays. It's a true live performance, so
Yeah.
mistakes might happen, but that's all part of what makes it feel organic and what lets you really connect. If it's too perfect, it's all like pre-mixed or whatever, then it's no
Kind of.
fun.
Yeah, personally, I'm a fan of that. I've always been a fan of. I don't think. I embrace technology, right? And
Yeah.
I think that when you talk about things like sync buttons and
Yeah.
sort of all that kind of stuff. First of all, I think that sort of element should be earned, right? But I like to see DJs sort of mix, and if they mess up a little bit, okay, what are they going to do about it? They're going to fix
Exactly.
it. And I kind
It's
of
how you
enjoy
recover,
that.
right?
Yeah, I kind of enjoy that, and it really just sort of gives you a sense of like the realness.
Yeah.
to it.
I mean, me and Jude agree too. We embrace technology 100%, but we also think that you should know your roots.
Right.
You should always learn how it became this way.
Yeah.
Then you can choose to do it
Yeah.
the new and the easier way, or whatever it may be. So, I mean, people talk about like real DJing and there's like elitists and stuff. I don't really.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
There's a
It's
fine
just-
line.
It's an art in its own.
Yeah.
I think.
The thing I have to say about that is like, you have the real DJs versus like the new DJs. I kind of feel like, there's an argument to be made, but it's like for all the real DJs, like for the amount of time you're spending sort of bad mouthing this person,
Right.
it's like spend your energy somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Right.
Positive
You know,
vibes.
something
bro.
like, something like that.
Teaching or promoting someone to be that
Yeah.
real DJ, I guess, in a sense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
instead of just bashing on someone. Well, I kind of want to ask a question. Is
Okay.
Do you produce your own tracks? Have you
Yeah.
produce your own
Yeah, I mean,
Are
I
we
think-
gonna hear them?
Yes, you're gonna hear some of them.
Are you
which
working
is
on
really good.
some new tracks as well? Or?
Working on a lot of new stuff. Naturally, I think that as a musician, everyone's like, you should be producing, cranking out tracks all the time. But it's a different aesthetic, for me.
Right.
It was definitely a struggle to get started just because, like, technology can also be very intimidating.
Just because you knew music theory and knew how to play instruments doesn't mean you can make music on a computer. You have to learn the software. You have to learn the technical side of it.
you got to put in hours, right? It's just like, what's the old adage from Maxim saying, you become an artist or a master, it's 10,000 hours, or whatever it is.
Probably even way more than that.
Yeah, minimum. or
Minimum.
whatever. But I think that I'm learning the nuances and maybe what works or what moves a certain type of floor, and you're sort of thinking about, is there too much swing on my hi-hats, or how does this sort of sit, or where would I play this in my set? So, answer your question, it's definitely a process. You're gonna hear some of the tracks, and goal this year is the EP is gonna be coming out. So hopefully we'll have something.
I
to
didn't even know
promote.
about this.
Yeah.
Hell
so,
yeah.
Maybe we'll be back then when we have something to promote.
Definitely.
Tight,
Dude,
yeah.
we could totally do a listening party with
Let's
you
do
here.
it.
Yeah.
Invite some of our
Let's do
close friends.
Excellent.
Come
I'm
by,
all
have a
for
good
it.
Coming
time.
up, listening party coming up.
I'm all for it.
Speaking about your DJing and producing and all that, do you have anything you want to preface your guest mix with? Anything you want to tell our
No,
listeners?
we're just gonna go and see where it takes us. Lately, I kind of been cut up from the house and deep house kind of vibe. I've been getting into a lot of as of the last month or so, a lot of warehouse music, a little more like garage style.
Oh,
We'll see.
okay.
We'll see where we go. I think that we'll see what this story ends up sounding like.
Cool.
But again, happy to be here.
Awesome.
And,
Have fun.
this was a lot of fun.
All right, let's get to it, guys.
All right.
Check
Shark
it.
Fight Call with his guest mix. Let's go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You are listening to Inflowence Radio, the sonic representation of the unrestricted flow. Stay unrestricted with Inflowence Radio.
You better work me.
Influenced by Inviscus.
The only ethic by which we can lift mankind today is some form of socialism. There is a smattering of it in the New Testament. It's very evidently clear on the day of Pentecost that they that believed were together and had all things common. They brought their possessions to the apostles' feet, and the apostles departed and parted to every man as he had need, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need, 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 and parted to every man as he had need.
out. And I remember saying, yo, I want you guys to bring, like, the thing that's gonna make the dark record stand out more is that if you interject a little bit more, like, you know, major chord shit in there, like happier shit in there, and then y'all put the minor